Hi, welcome back to the Expect to Be Moved Roundtable Talk with the Experienced Real Estate Partners here. We've got a lot of things that we have been discussing before the camera started rolling, and I think the biggest top of mind right now is with all the changes that are happening in real estate, and we're hearing, some changes are going to happen with sellers, definitely changes are happening with buyers coming up. We kind of really were talking about what is important that we think this year more than ever is important to have top of mind for both a seller and a buyer. We've been focusing a lot on buyers lately with the commission lawsuit changes and stuff like that. So wanted to kind of pick their brains, because these guys are the experts out there in the field every day, pick their brains and kind of talk about what do we think that we've been doing that has been successful for us. What do we think we need to do more of, and what do we think might change with all of these different changes that are coming down the pike with, not being able, as a seller, not being able to offer publicly what your commission compensation might be to a buyer agent to entice buyers to or agents to show your property. So that's changing. New date for that is now August 17th. I believe it was supposed to be mid-July, just got pushed back to August 17th. So that was a little bit of strategy in the past, that as agents and sellers we've used is what portion of that commission was being offered out as a selling incentive. So although that can still be there, and we still expect sellers to be offering compensation for agents, but it can't be advertised in the multiple listing service anymore, which is where we always went to for ease. The multiple listing service is what feeds all of the subsidy websites like Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, stuff like that. And so those elements will not be there anymore. So it got me thinking, agents are probably going to need to step up their marketing game a little bit. And then we also are going to be looking at, there's going to be some buyers that when faced with, hey, you've got to sign an agreement with me or we can't do certain, things for you, they're probably going to have some instances of buyers that go unrepresented at least for a while. They want to try to jump around and say, I don't want to commit, so fine, don't do anything for me. So what is that going to look like for our business? So I want to kind of touch on those things. So first of all, jump in with what's the market feeling like for you right now, and what do you think is some good marketing tips for sellers that we implement that you think we should continue to do, and maybe if there's any great ideas that you guys have that, if your agents out there are struggling for what to do to market, maybe we can give you some ideas. And of course, sellers realizing, hiring a real estate agent is not just hiring somebody as a salesperson. It really starts with the marketing side of things. So you really need to look for, basically you're hiring a marketing company, right? So you're hiring your agent should be the marketing company for your house. From there, it creates traffic. From traffic creates interest. From interest creates sales. So sales come in much farther down the line. Would you agree?
Absolutely, 100%.
I think marketing, especially at this day and age, is all about like digital. So I feel like the whole like website on your property is always like a huge thing. So I love it when agents like make an entire website for the property. That
Now, one thing I think I'm going to throw this out there because I think it's a thorn in consumers' sides, but it's also a necessary evil to run a business, because as a business you have to always have pipeline. You can't just have your sale and your close and then you're nothing, but you still have all these expenses. So you always have to be worried about creating a long-lasting pipeline so that your business is consistent. And what I'm talking about, that is the thorn in the side, we're talking about websites, is the forced registration that most websites have, which is why people often run to Zillow and Realtor.com or Homes.com, is because they don't have the forced, right?
Right.
There's other ways they're catching you though, because you're actually a consumer on those sites and you don't even realize it. But the other company websites, where you're allowed to see one or two or three pictures, and then it says, boop, put in your information to see the rest, and everybody kind of gives us the thumbs up, the middle thumbs up on that a lot of times, because you don't want to give her information. And so, understandably, I'm a consumer too, you guys are consumers, and there's times that happens to us and we feel the same way. But as a business owner, you have to understand we have to always be collecting possible interest so that we can follow up with people, because we're spending money on those sites. We're spending money to be able to create leads off of that. So that is a necessary evil for our business. And that's where I think the single property websites can really be used strategically, so they can both play in the same sandbox this way. So you can still have your sites that create the lead opportunities by the forced registration, but when you have an agent that is utilizing single property websites, we can then have you share those or share those on social media for certain instances and not have the forced part turned on. So that way the public can see. So for instance, a good thing to do with that would be like an announcement for an open house. So you could put the single property website out, attract people, let them see some of the pictures, not force that, that they need to give us their information, and it gives them exposure. So I think that's a really
Yeah,
good,
I love that.
a really good tool.
Yeah.
And the reason too that the forced sites, there's a value in that too, because as your agent, if we don't know that someone's opening up those links, if we don't know that someone's looking or asking questions, then we don't know what marketing is working. So we have to be able to have some of those analytics to be able to track how many people came, how many people filled out the form, how many people was interested enough to get over that hurdle to fill out that form. So that tells us a lot. So you, as a consumer, you got to deal with those type of things because it is ultimately in your best interest when we're recommending to seller. So what else, or what are some other?
Well, part of the conversation is how can I best market your home? And those are things that we talk about. Lori, you do it a lot. You ladies do it a lot. Is what do we need to do to get your home prepared for market? Do we need to have some painting done, some staging ideas, get it ready so that we can market it the proper way? Because when we put it up, spend money to put it on the top of the Zillow list, we want to have the best representation for that client. So I think that's a big part of it.
So iPhone photos are cool to do for that? Is that a no?
That's a
Right. So professional photography is huge.
So I have a listing right now that I took over from another agent, and the seller did not like their marketing. It was exactly what you talked about. They did some quick snapshots with their phone and threw it on the market and overpriced it, didn't do proper comps for them, and did them a disservice. So it's been on the market now for 3 months. We have it under contract, but you don't want that stigma. What's wrong with the house? You don't want it on the market that way.
Right.
That's why it's very important to sit down, have a consultation with your agent or potential agent, just to, figure out, do I want to work with this person?
Yes.
For sure.
This is the biggest, we say this a lot, so cliche, but this is the biggest, potentially the biggest investment of your life.
So would you say our list of valued contractors is a value to a seller?
100%. Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, we have $1 million contractor list for sure.
I think it's all about trying to articulate to the seller that we want to create as much awareness that we can for that opening weekend. So I like to explain to them that open house in realtor land is like an opening weekend for a film. You're going to generally cast your widest net, get your biggest pool of buyers in that first weekend, and the splash that you want to make is generally the photography and the verbiage, the marketing description that goes out on the MLS. So you want to position your home to be at top of mind when people are clicking through, not only through copy, but also through image. So how do you do that, right? I always offer a free staging consultation, which could be just accessorizing your home for a very minimal cost or a full stage for more. But I sometimes feel like a parent talking at the listing presentations because they hear it from me and they're kind of like, oh, I don't know. But when they hear it from the staging professional, it's like, wow. So I always try and have my team on hand and readily available between the staging, contractors, handyman's, painters, the whole creation of making your home stand out above and beyond everybody else's. So it really is that marketing and that awareness key.
I think too, part of the stress of selling your house is that pregame. It's
100%.
the whole I don't have time to organize, I don't have time to clean, I don't have time to paint, I don't know who to call to paint, and if I do call to paint, are they ripping me off? So I probably got to call 3 people to paint, and then that guy doesn't show up. Like, it becomes a huge ordeal, and that's where as professional realtors, that's where we can come in and lift that burden a lot, because we can be that concierge person for you, for helping to arrange all of that. And I think that doesn't get the weight that it should, because a lot of our work is done prior to coming to the market, if it's done right. Like
Correct.
if you're hiring the right agent, there should be, hopefully, we should have a few weeks, if not more. Sometimes it's a quick, we gotta get the house on the market, but most of the time, we're dealing with a couple, weeks at least. And not only can we be pre-marketing at that point, but usually we're running around trying to tie all those loose ends up for you and make it easier for you to focus on basically cleaning, like the type of things that only you can do. I think that's a huge help. And then we've got, sometimes we have houses that need a little more than just a little staging.
Sure. It reminds me of that real estate meme where the seller's like, oh, my house sold so quickly. I mean, what did my agent even do?
Right.
Then why are they even?
Right.
And it's like, that's what just happened. They did all of that work leading up.
Just
If
did
they
it.
did their job right, that's great that it sold that quickly, so
Yeah.
worth every penny.
And there's
Yeah.
things like behind the scenes of cross prospecting. So once we know what your house is, what it's like, how many beds, baths, square footage, what area, schools it in, we can then cross prospect through our network of agents and determine through our MLS system what agents have shopping carts created for their buyer that matches some of the criteria that your house is. So then we can fish out those agents, get in touch with them, let them know, something's coming. And then also, ahead of time, we can start putting our toes in the water of price sometimes. So sometimes we're on the fence about, do we try this price or do we try this price? And what's really, really great about our current system is during that coming soon process, your days on the market are frozen at 0. So you go into the MLS, we're not showing the house during coming soon, but it's a get ready stage and it's a pre-market stage for us. So while you're doing your final last fixes and cleaning your closets and all that stuff, we're going to work.
We're teasing it.
Yes, we're teasing it, we're counting hits, we're checking our analytics, we're reaching out to agents, we're even running it through our own database, because we can cross prospect in our own database for the last several years of people that keep coming back and hitting our websites to search for property that haven't bought houses. We know what their criteria is that they're putting in, so then we can cross prospect with those too. So all of that is stuff I think that's going to continue to be, I think, even more important than ever. And then we were talking earlier, my personal opinion of open houses. So I've been doing this for 27 years. I've gone through markets that have been 2008. Like when I built my business from 97 to probably 2005 with open houses. Like it was a great way for me to meet people. Lots of people came in that didn't have agents yet. We connected. I became their agent and I built my business that way. Then we went through, once Zillow came out, because Zillow came on in 2006. So Realtor.com came on first, touched the open house business a little bit. But once Zillow came on the market, really people stopped tire kicking as much in person because they could tire kick from their bed on their phone, right? So we saw open house traffic just plummet. And it became almost a waste of our time and energy to sit at someone's house. I mean, I used to use it as my escape for my kids to go read a good book at an open house during those years, because there was hardly anybody coming through. Then we started to see a little resurgence, a balance, come back for a while. And then when the inventory became tight and people were having to race to get contracts in, the open houses took a big upswing. Would you agree that the last few years the open houses have been very, very loaded with 30, 50, 60, 70 people in some instances coming through a 2-hour time span in an open house. And so I think, and then we kind of saw it cool a little bit, not cold, but cool a little bit. But I think now that we're gonna be dealing with having to hold buyers accountable to committing to agents before we can do you can do ministerial acts, and that's just like providing information. We cannot do any agent acts of services for buyers that do not sign an agreement with us come August. So, and it can be different kinds of agreements, but there still has to be some sort of an agreement signed. Otherwise, think about this. How many times have we picked up a lead or we met somebody in an open house, and one of the things you do after you get their information is come back and set them up a buyer cart. Hey, I'm going to send you some information. Here's all the houses that are in this neighborhood or match your criteria. Can't do that anymore. So think about how many buyers out there are now getting cut off from that information other than what they search online themselves and are going to feel the need to go tire kick again. I think we're going to see open houses be a big thing again. So sellers that hate them, sorry. They're back with a vengeance, I think. What do you guys think about open houses? What are your general experiences with them?
I love open houses.
I love open houses too.
It helps me. I love them because usually the people that are most serious are going to come to that open house.
Yeah.
Now, I hold all of my active properties, I hold them to not be able to accept appointments until the open house. And that open house I do during lunchtime from 11 to 1, usually on a Thursday or Friday, sometimes a Wednesday, depending on the schedule. And so I know
Wait a
generally.
minute, it's not a Sunday 1 to 3 open
No,
house?
no,
That's
because
weird.
people are really busy on the weekends.
Right.
Especially if you're
So
shopping
tell
for a
us
family
why,
house.
tell us why you do that.
Well, because people are busy, and my feeling is because of how things are right now, moving so fast, the people who really love it and are really interested are the ones that are going to come the fastest and the first. So I don't let anybody see the house until my open house, and the reason I want that is because I want to have conversations with those very serious buyers, and I want them to trust me so that I will help get this deal over the line for them. Now, of course, I'm always representing my seller, but it really helps to build a relationship with the agent and the other buyers. Sometimes the agents are there, sometimes they're not. Regardless, I'm happy to start building that conversation and that relationship. So then I can carry it forward throughout the transactions. It just builds a relationship. And it works often. And often I'll follow it up with the 5 to 7 that night as
I
well.
was just gonna say, you're the queen of evening and dusk type open houses too.
It allows somebody who might be working from home and is available to run out really quick during lunchtime to go scope out the property. And then they call, if a partner is involved, they call their spouse, their partner, girlfriend, boy, whoever they're gonna buy the house with, and they give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and then they come back and see me for the next open house. Or they then call their agent and have their agent come through. But at this point, I've already made that connection. I have their name, I have their number. If they're represented, I call their agent. If they're not, then that's a whole different conversation. But the best is really building those relationships up front on behalf of your seller.
Yeah.
My sellers love it.
Yeah,
They
I
love
agree. And Curtis, you're so good at open houses. We typically have you train our new agents on open houses. So tell us what some of your tricks are.
I think a lot of it is the buzz before the open house. When you have that seller that as soon as the photos are in, I want my house on the market today, instead of building up the buzz, having it on the market, doing the marketing things that we all do here, getting everybody involved in that with their people. And even before that, in the withheld stage, we didn't really talk about that because a lot of agents just won't put it in a withheld stage.
Right.
But we've got so many agents in the EXP system that can
Yes.
actually look at it ahead of time. So we do a good job. Our group does a great job of that. I don't know what everybody else does, but we're really good at that. And then the coming soon, the buzz for the coming soon. And then, the buzz with the agents that have already sent this house out, reverse market them on the MLS, let them know what's going on.
Yeah, you do a great job with that, and you're great with people when they come through, and good with answering questions. So, what about and Angela, you've done some great open houses and had success with them. What about your thoughts on extending the open houses?
I was just gonna say, I do a 12 to 4 sometimes.
Yeah.
Smart.
Because generally speaking, I would say 99% of what you see open houses are is Sunday 1 to 3, Sunday 2 to 4. Those are the standard hours that we've seen.
Mhm.
And then we started seeing every once in a while we throw a Saturday one in because, sometimes they're
Mhm.
busy on Sunday or they've got multiple listings. And that's another thing that's great. I'm going to throw this in, a little plug for teams. That's one thing I think is great with having a team too, is if you think about it, some people still are thinking the antiquated ways about real estate agents when it used to be a one woman or one man show back in the day. And it's not that way anymore, because if you're hiring an agent that has enough time to be doing your open house all the time, a lot of times you're hiring someone that doesn't have any other business going on, right? So that's what's great about our team, is that we can help each other out and pick up some of the slack so that either you can continue to hold your seller's open house, or perhaps we take turns holding the house open, right? So we're able to get a lot more.
Or one of us do the 11 to 1 and then one
Yes,
do the 1 to
yes.
3, so you've got a 4-hour window on
Exactly.
on a day that we typically
So I think
just-
that's huge versus just, having the one person that's trying to be the marketing person, the phone answerer, pulling up comps, putting the signs out. Like it's hard to get a lot of business done when you're trying to do it all. But back to the extended part, think about new construction subdivisions have their host sitting there
Mhm.
5 or 6 days a week, all day long. And that's where they get most of their business from. They get people that are just walking in. So I know we're going to continue to expand ours. I think that's something that we're going to see change here, is that the Sunday standard 1 to 3, 2 to 4 will probably not be the only thing that we're going to see. I think we're going to start seeing agents jump on the bandwagon of, I kind of like set up your office day that day at the house.
Yes,
Yeah.
Get some stuff done, put the
Yeah.
sign out front and let people
Yeah.
come and go, just like they do in new construction. Why not?
Yeah.
Then the other piece of that we do, it hasn't been brought up yet, we'll do the neighborhood sneak peek. So on a Friday, invite the neighbors in from 5 to 7 and have wine or
I
soda
feel like,
or different
maybe I'm
snacks.
wrong, but I feel like we kind of came up with that years ago. We were the
Sure.
ones that orchestrated that in the first, and I never saw anybody doing that. And probably, I think I started it maybe 15 years ago,
The
doing
neighborhood
that, and
sneak
really
peek.
had great results with it. And then when I shared it with you guys put it on steroids, and you're set up with food and wine and everything.
You know the neighbors would love to pick their own neighbors.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
100%.
So the neighborhood sneak peek, and it kind of changed on us a little bit when the clear cooperation came in, right? We really played up the neighborhood sneak peek before that. So I'm hoping some of those rules lighten up again now that we've got all these other changes happening. But what we used to do is we would only allow the neighbors to come in and see the house the day before. So then it gives them the head start to go tell their friends and family that maybe they're trying to get to move closer. This listing's coming before it's gone that night, because this is when stuff started to move pretty quickly. So, now we don't quite time it that way. I don't think as much. You've been doing just more of the open house for everybody. But I think if we can get those rule changes back a little bit, I would love to do a revamp on that. So, any other ideas with open houses?
Well, I mean, for open houses, for me, it's like a storefront. I just want to come in and place my signs out. Like, I put little signs also out, as well as the one in the front that says
Yeah.
open house today,
Yeah.
1 to 3.
Yes.
Inside, I have like cute little signs, and I lay out all the pamphlets out, all nice and pretty. Put my cards out, nice and pretty. Have the sign-in sheet all nice and pretty. I just make it all comfortable, and then yes, I have my laptop ready. I'm sitting there, and sometimes people ask me questions about other properties.
Right.
I'm there. I'm like, okay, hold on one second.
Right.
Let me just get this information for you. Oh, great. Yes, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
So I love that. Like,
But
it's
now
just
think
like,
about
We are, yeah.
That's going to change. We
Yeah,
can't do
can't
that
do that
anymore.
oh my
anymore.
gosh, yeah.
I know, like think of it.
But
It's
I
really
think-
weird to think
yeah.
about how we're going to be so hampered without.
Unless
Oh,
I'm
you want to
It's a
sign?
commitment.
Give me your information.
Yeah. There is
Yes.
a
Right?
You think forced registration was bad before?
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
still,
So
I mean, it is still that opportunity to show your personality
It
and
is.
show your service and,
Yes.
you know, maybe move them towards wanting to sign
Yeah.
with you.
And I
mean,
remember when we first
yeah.
talked, you were like, I'll make phone calls. but I shine more in person.
Yeah.
And it's
I
100% true. And then there's other people that like, they would rather put a fork in their eye than sit at an open
Right.
house. There's some agents that just,
There is
Yeah.
an art.
Well, there's
There
it's,
is.
there's
There's
an art,
art.
and I've watched Lori. I mean,
yeah, Lori's
just
great at it.
she is just it's a circus because there's all sorts of people coming in. Some have their
Mhm.
agents with them, some don't. Some are neighbors,
Mhm.
looky-loos that just want to know. And I watch you, and you are exactly the same with every single potential that comes in. It's the same grace, the same information. You know, you ask them it just feels like such a personal touch. So, and I'm so grateful to be there
And
because
what's
as
your
the
role?
lender, yeah,
Tell
as the
them what your
lender,
role.
well, it goes to that service, right? So you talked about how you have a list of contractors, you have, you know, you said it's like $1 million list because those people are going to get in and paint or do whatever, you know, and you also have a lender in your back pocket. So again, that open house is how can we be of service to you? So you have a lender, hopefully me, there to help anyone with their buying of the property. I can sit there and go over numbers with you. How much would this cost? What are you looking at? What's your situation? Boom, you can have, you know, anything you need to know about a loan right there too.
And
But
how
that's-
often do you find people do stop and talk to you about questions about the
Quite often, quite
Oh,
often.
yeah.
Even if the people do have, you know, sometimes, of course, it's the general public. So sometimes you have people that are like, we're buying cash. Just don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Or you know, you have someone that's like, I've already been pre-qualified. Well, that's fine. That's great. Do you want a second opinion? It's probably good to get a second opinion. And you know, again, I'm just there to be of service. So it's however that I can help you to get this house sold. That's what I'm there for. It's a
think you-
value add.
Yeah, you have to
Yes.
bring the energy
Right.
and the genuineness to the open house because everybody that's coming through, I can turn anybody who's like, I'm just looking.
Oh,
I've seen you.
I have seen her do this. It's
When I
the
used to-
personality.
When I used to own my boutique, I was like, if I just get them in the dressing room, I know they're gonna buy something. And that's how I feel at open houses.
Yeah.
I'm gonna break you before
But
you
you
get
never
in.
do.
Yeah,
You
you're
know
gonna
what?
smile at me.
But
I
Lori,
promise.
but here's the thing, and this is what I'll say about you. It's not disingenuous.
No.
You're not,
No.
you know, we're not trying to do a thing, snake oil salesman, let me get ya. You know,
No.
it's not
No.
like that. You genuinely are, how can I help you? What's going on? I mean, it's like you kind of dress them down right away. What's their story? And then you find those connecting pieces, which is a fundamental of sales. How do you connect with people?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so good to be there in person.
Yes.
Yeah.
How
And it's
better
good
to
to have
connect.
somebody to
Yeah.
Yes.
chat with while you're there for
Right.
all the people.
Yeah.
I'm just there to be a girlfriend.
It
Bring the
helps to be,
snacks, you know.
have two
It
people
really does.
manning,
Yeah.
especially,
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day when we
Busy.
had 2 or 3 people come through in 2
It didn't
hours,
matter,
it's
yeah.
clearly not
And
not
we're not
needed.
always all we're not really talking to each other because we're manning the fort
Right,
kind of
right,
thing,
yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
But it is like that backup.
Or one will be inside, one will be outside.
Maybe a safety thing too. you
Yeah,
know,
It
yeah,
is a
think
safety
about,
thing, and
yeah.
speaking of that, sorry we ask you to sign in at open houses, but seriously, guys, sign in at an open house. I mean,
Yeah.
for insurance purposes, for the sellers, we need to know who are coming in, liability reasons, we need to know who is coming in and out of our seller's house. So
Yeah.
that is part of it. If you want to
Yeah.
be able to kick tires and not, you know, owe anybody anything, you at least owe us your name and contact
Exactly.
number.
Sort of a
It's gonna be
side,
like
You know,
Elmer
there is
Fudd.
a lot of safety.
It is. It is.
sort of a side on that. It's not always bad not to know everything or to give somebody their information. Say, I'm not sure about this. Let me look into it. I'll get back to you. Now we got to
Yes.
be careful about that
yes.
Yeah.
because,
right, 'cause are you
now we're
helping
giving them
someone?
information
Correct.
and there's a lot to think about.
I know.
So
Everybody's
good to know
gonna have
exactly
to
what
change
the
our,
rules are.
yeah, those are
How
all
much can
getting
you
ironed
help?
out.
It's gonna have to lock them down.
Goodness
they keep-
gracious. Yeah, lock them down.
They keep like dialing them in more and more every single day. It seems like there's changes that keep coming out, so we're following those closely. But yeah, it's to think about just our little ways of doing things are gonna have to change
I don't
dramatically.
know. I mean, you think about it on the lending end too. Look at all the information that we give people or help people with. Pre-qualify them, get them pre-approved, but they haven't signed with me. I
Right,
wonder if it'll.
but your organization isn't coming in saying you can't do it anymore. Ours
No,
is.
that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
will that bleed
Yeah.
over into lending too?
don't
Like
know.
they're not gonna go down these journeys with you unless you sign with us as your lender.
Well, maybe if there's a DOJ case, there might be, it might be.
Oh gosh, maybe somebody does need to
Yes.
sue.
Don't know.
Do a lot of work for nothing.
Yeah, there is a lot of that.
Yeah.
So one other thing we touched on earlier, I think Curtis, you did, was preparing the house for sale.
Yes.
So we all agree, we think open houses are a good thing. We're back to that. So now we got to look at, we're kind of swinging back to the sellers needing to do a little bit for their house. When it's a super red hot market, which it's been,
Yeah.
peppery. Some areas, some
Yeah.
are still super red hot, and then a couple aren't. So when it's super red hot, we can dial back on a lot of that stuff, because at that point we joke around and say you barely have to clean your house to be able to sell it.
Yeah.
You know, when it's a market like that. But when we start to stabilize even just a little bit, not even completely balanced, but just having some soft spots like we did last year when the rates went up and everybody was a little bit in sticker shock with the rates and we saw buyers pull back, we needed to go in and have sellers start doing some improvements to their home before putting it on the market, so that we could ensure, since it was a smaller buyer pool because of the ones that were sitting on the sidelines, that we took advantage of every single person that walked through that door, so we could still possibly create that multiple offer situation. And that is by making your house be the queen on the runway of the beauty pageant, right? So you need to spice it up. And we've got some options for that. So either some of these ladies go crazy with helping, and I know you took a house and was picking up landscaping bags and rocks and dragging them yourself into the house and doing it.
I thought you were
Picking up
talking
dead
about the other
animals
things she
and-
picked up.
Yeah, picking up the dead
Dead
animals and all
animals.
kinds of
Yeah.
things. Like we go to great
Above and
lengths.
beyond.
But also,
Service.
just connecting you, like I said, with our contractors that are trusted and true to us, because if we can save you the time and energy of not getting involved with either somebody that you waited on and then they stand you up, so now our time frames pushed back, which is costing you money, or that they come and charge you more than what some of our people might charge you. So if you can put your trust in us, who puts our trust in people that we have a track record with.
Right, they have to earn their way under our contract.
They do.
list. I like that.
And if you think about it, I tell my sellers this all the time. You're going to call somebody, and if they disappoint you, you're one person. So sometimes they're like, screw it.
Right.
That's a small job, and I just got called for this big job. But when they disappoint one of us, that's a whole line of referral business that they are no longer going to get. So they tend to, can't say they're always perfect, but they're pretty darn close. Our contractors tend to prioritize our clients. So it really is less stressful and helpful for you to let us get involved on some of that, which means calling us very early in the process. And then a lot of times some of the pushback we get is, I don't want to spend the money, or I don't have the money to spend. All my money is in the equity in the house. Well, there's solutions for that. And again, none of this was even a thing when people weren't having to fix their houses up. But then, of course, in times of need, companies are born. So there was a company born, I don't know how old they are, but it kind of came to the surface and seen more predominantly in the last 2 years that we partnered with, that will allow for, as long as you have equity in your house, a certain amount of equity in your house, they will allow for a big percentage of that available funds for you to spend for improvements that you pay at closing. So you don't have to come out of pocket for it. So those are other little benefits too, to help get your house priced at top dollar. And sometimes we just got, we're looking at replacing some carpet or some paint, and we usually got somebody for that. But occasionally, even without that third-party company, you can get paid at closing with some of the companies.
I like to say that even though we have all of the contractors, you should bring us in early so we can also advise you
Yes.
on which one to do.
Great
Some
point.
people are like, oh, I'm just gonna totally repaint this blue now. But wait a second,
Yes.
is that like appropriate right now? Like, we would
Yes.
know better than
Right.
to just go ahead and do it.
And
you
and
know?
also, you guys are always so great about giving me advice of this particular upgrade or this change. It's not dollar for dollar. So maybe you spend $2,000 doing this, but
Yeah.
actually you're going to have buyers that are willing to offer 5 or 10,000 more because that's just been done already. So thinking about that,
Yeah, well, and then the biggest thing that sellers do is they want to change the color to something they like.
like,
So
yeah.
they want to do it. It's like,
Exactly.
you gotta,
like neutral.
you know,
Yeah.
advise on what are the buyers looking at today?
Glad
And
you
on
said
the other hand, if you really don't have the time, the funds, even though we can get around that, or you don't wanna put the effort into it, that's a pricing conversation.
Mhm.
And that's okay too. But so we can create two choices for you, and in the end, we can walk through all of the pros and cons of each of those. But what I think the one thing that I always suggest is don't be in the middle. Either do it or don't do it. Like, and there's a few things that are, kind of must-haves when you sell your house. Flooring, carpet tend to be the top two. But I always say, like, the middle ground is the tough
Yeah.
part to be in, because the buyers aren't quite sure how much to spend.
It's don't throw good money after bad.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that the turnkey homes that are updated so well go so fast and for such a high dollar is because the updates are baked into the loan.
Mhm.
So if you are a first-time home buyer or even a second or third-time home buyer, due to the interest rate taking a little more bite out of your monthly payment, and also the fact that you have to come to the table with a lot more down than you did a few years ago, your fund money, your renovation money is gone. But if you can mortgage that, then you're willing to do that. So it's just these turnkey homes that are renovated and updated, you see them going for so much over ask, because people don't have to, if you can, cover that gap, or if it's priced right, you don't have to come out of pocket on your home when you move in. And I think really that's the huge thing about doing these updates.
So think of it this way. Let's say we give you a laundry list of some things that we think is going to improve the house. Spend $5,000 on doing that. And people are like, am I going to make this back? Well, here's where I look at it. I can't promise you dollar for dollar, but generally speaking, the things that we tell you to do actually end up getting you more than what you spend. Because if you think about even like with staging, let's say staging, people like to always push back on, oh, do I really have to stage? Can't you virtual stage or whatever? And we can do options. But if you think about an empty house, and if we don't stage, first of all, there's two steps to being interested in the house. And the first is selling it to the buyers online. So first of all, if we're taking photos of an empty house, empty rooms, the focal point is the walls and the floors, right?
100%.
That's it. And all the furniture marks that were left behind, those type of things. So it's not very impressive. It doesn't pull you in to those photos. Your emotions are not falling in love with that house, because let's face it, we're in St. Louis, we're not in the South. Not a lot of people know how to decorate here. Not well, anyway.
Yeah.
So when they see a house that is all pulled together, it captures their hearts, because they're just in love with the total package. So think about the online searches. Then we're losing a percentage of people that didn't click save because it didn't wow them online, right? So then we can kind of maybe get over some of that with some virtual staging, so that helps us get some of that back. But then you got part two. Part two is I was interested enough from the pictures to come to the house. So now I'm coming to the house and walking through. So an example of this is maybe we are dealing with some people that had a house full of furniture when they first met us. We took photos of that. We put that online, and then they move out before the house sells. When they think, well, you got the photos of my furniture before I moved out. That's for step one. Step two is they got to come to the house and fall in love with it more than what they fell in love with on the photos. And when they get there, and that's wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
It's this empty house with every mar possible is showing now, because there's nothing to distract their eye from the beat up marks on the wall and the floors. And even if you do paint it and stuff, it's just a blank canvas. It's kind of boring. So staging, for instance, depending on the price of your house, is usually anywhere from like $1,500 to $5,000. So let's say you're with a 5,000 person. You put $5,000 into staging. Don't you think the amount of people that are engaged in your photos from having that house perfectly staged with everything that's trendy right now, everything that blends together nicely? Because if you think about how we all decorate, we have a hodgepodge of our life usually in our houses, most people. And unless you're really into decorating, all your stuff doesn't exactly blend together perfectly. It's not the picture perfect, but it's what you like. Maybe those couches are kind of ugly, but they're comfortable, you know? And so staging takes care of all that. It is a showroom. These are the same stagers that do the builders display homes, if that says anything.
Exactly.
That's what sells those builders' houses. So the $5,000 that you invest, don't you think the amount of people, the tens or dozens or hundreds more people that online went, wow, I'm gonna see that house, and the dozens more that will come see it versus they took it off their list because it was blah. Don't you think that's going to get you more interest on an offer?
The house looks
In
more
multiple
expensive. It
offers.
So
looks
if
more
more,
expensive.
yes, and if more
Created the
offers
value.
are coming in,
Sure.
don't you think one's gonna maybe go up $5,000 more than they were going to before? Maybe 10, maybe
Yes.
15, maybe 30.
It'll pay for
Or you'll get
itself.
multiple contracts
That's
and
what I
go
mean.
And they
50,
each
60,
other.
70.
Yeah.
60, 70.
It'll pay for
Yeah.
itself and
It, so there's
Dividend.
100%, it's
Yeah.
paying for itself and then some. So, but like you said, I went to a house a couple weeks ago, and it's great bones, but it needs a lot of cosmetic things. And she was talking about, well, maybe I should replace some of the floors and this and that. And my reaction was, don't. Because to me, you're throwing good money after bad, because this is a house that somebody's going to come in and do like a total rehab on.
100%.
So why spend the money on that one countertop? Why spend the money on trying to change these one floors out? Because they're going to come in and rip it all up. So everything you just spent on that's going to be ripped out.
Yeah, and what you choose, they're not going to like.
Right.
People who come in and buy these homes that are not totally turnkey and renovated is because they want to do it themselves.
Yes.
So don't take that away from them. I
Yes.
100% agree with you on that.
So
100%.
my advice was flip flop. You don't go into every single house and say spend money. There's certain occasions I'm like, don't spend a dime. Let's just put it up.
Yeah.
But the price has to reflect that,
Exactly.
like you were saying.
But again, that's where that experience comes in, where you really want to be careful about who you choose, because
That's right.
it's not a one size fits all advice.
Not all agents know that,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
but we do.
Well, we are the experience. Anything else in wrapping this up for this new crazy market that we're experiencing?
No, just lots of.
Choose wisely.
Yeah.
That's right.
Good one.
That's
Good
right.
one. Lots of
And go ahead.
There are lots of great ideas that I like to talk through in each of my listing appointments to get your house prepared to be listed. And it's sitting down with an agent or two. Even now, if you're thinking about listing your house next spring or in
Yeah.
the fall, now is the time really to kind of really start thinking things through.
Yeah.
It's a fun I love the listing process.
I
It's
do too.
fun. I really do.
I think one note that I was thinking about, and this could be on the buyer side more, but I was thinking about the whole agreement. I was thinking that, it is a contract that we are binded to, but it's not binded to. If you ask to get out of the contract, I mean, a reputable agent should be able to say, okay, we're not meeting eye to eye for whatever reason, and yes, now the contract is null and void. Do you see
Depending
what I
on what
mean?
you spend.
It
Just
depends,
depends.
depends on the terms of the contract. Like, are
Yeah.
they getting out because you just are oil and water, you guys aren't, then nobody wants to work with each other. But if they've run you around for 4 months and you've written 15 offers and then they're trying to get out of a contract because the listing agent over here said, I'll do it for cheaper,
Yeah.
we've got to be able to stick to our
Yes,
guns on those
yes,
type of things too. So I would say that's a case by case.
Mhm.
But I think we're going to see, to your defense on that, I think we're going to see a multitude of different types of arrangements and agreements.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
It's not going to be you got to sign for a year
Yeah.
with somebody
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
haven't met. It might be the day. It
Yeah.
might be for that property. So
Yeah.
I think Zillow has a week one
Yeah.
right now
yeah.
online.
Although I'm hearing that might be illegal. So we'll see if
I'm
that
sure,
stands.
I'm
There's
sure.
some
It
definitely
came
some.
out quickly.
Yes, it did. So anyway, I think our open house topic was really good to think about. I think we're going to be having little masterminds in our office how to even take more advantage of them as the months tick or the days tick closer to the changes coming. But we also all enjoy holding open houses, right? So.
Yes.
So sellers, get ready, get your house clean for more than just the weekends, because we really feel like we're going to take advantage of daily and weekend open houses to really maximize your exposure. So thanks for joining us today. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and come on back to Expect to be Moved, because you can expect to be moved with this group of experienced realtors.